Hey everyone, welcome to the Happy Flosser podcast. My name is Billy Lunt. I am your host, and I am here to talk to you about all things dental hygiene to support you on your journey through the dental hygiene program. It is really fantastic to be with you today. And today's topic is about academic and clinical challenges of dental hygiene school. Goodness, is it way harder than we realize? So we are on week 5 at my school. And the first year students are learning all about instrumentation and kind of getting their feet on the ground or underneath them, I would say, to just start learning about how do I use these instruments and what is a modified pen grasp and what is pivoting on my fulcrum and how do I make a stroke and what's the right direction that I have to rock on my fulcrum to make the stroke go in the right direction. And I can't see, and indirect vision is really hard. These are all normal. And I think students quickly forget that they're just learning these techniques and strategies and skills, and they just need to be patient with themselves. But at the same time, the senior students are feeling the weight and pressures of the rigors as well. They have a lot more responsibility with their clinical pieces, right? So they're seeing patients, more complicated patients with more challenging medical histories, difficult treatments. And they're kind of feeling the weight of, oh my goodness, I have a lot of stuff that I have to think about. I have a lot of stuff that I have to remember in order to provide my patient with the right type of care and really be thorough in all the things that I do. And guys, there is nothing easy about dental hygiene school. So we're going to talk about some of those challenges because dental hygiene school is intense and it's really hard, both scientifically, both skills, right? Didactic, clinical, and stamina. I think stamina is the word that I will use because you have to be able to thrive all the way through. Often we start off really strong and we can kind of underestimate the workload and maybe not prioritize things quite so well. So I want to make sure this is like a gentle reminder to you that you got into the program, you have what it takes, you can do all these challenges that are ahead of you. And this is just a short episode to kind of share with you my thoughts on like what are the things that I see that I could share with you to really help kind of reignite you as you're starting to feel a little bit maybe deflated or defeated. So it's really easy to feel the workload stress, right? Because hygiene programs are not only fast paced, but they are very demanding. And even if this isn't your first semester and you've already done a semester of 2 of dental hygiene school, it seems like, oh, this should get easier, but it actually doesn't. The assignments, the labs, and the clinics, they just kind of stack up on you semester in and semester out. And so as you learn more things in the didactic content, you have to then implement those things in the clinical setting. And so that can really kind of weigh you down over time and kind of wear you out. So that's where that stamina comes in. And then I would be not giving you justice if I didn't mention procrastinating on assignments. You guys are all really have to be super organized because now you're dealing with patients and your clinical schedules, your didactic courses. There's tons of assignments. There's lots of assessments. And you want to make sure that even though as faculty, we try to stagger out some of your due dates, and we're very strategic in how we put together your quizzes and really heavy assessments. You have to do your part to make sure that you're providing yourself with enough time to actually practice or process and study for those big assignments, projects, and assessments that are coming your way. So waiting until the last minute can be really disastrous. I just had a conversation with a student about pressure. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about how consistency really matters in my life and how it really helps me with my performance in all different aspects. And I don't leave anything kind of to myself. I share it out with students when I figure something out that I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did this take me so long to figure out? And so one of the things that I figured out is that it doesn't matter how many goals you achieve or how successful you consider yourself, or, in your own mind of what your definition of success is. It's really about how you feel inside, but how you handle the pressure that comes at you. Because no matter what your goal and what your role is, the pressure is there. And how we handle pressure really defines how we feel about ourselves and what the outcome is, right? What that outcome is when that moment arrives and we have the pressure in front of us. And really, the best way to handle pressure is with preparation and practice. Because when you have the pressure come your way, you have to lean in on your practice. So if you've been practicing your instrumentation skills, or you've been practicing taking radiographs on a patient, and you've been practicing all these different parts of clinical assessment, when all of a sudden you are having a skill evaluation in your clinical setting and you go into that fight or flight mode where you're super anxious, which I tell you, you're supposed to say that you're super excited. When you go into that fight or flight mode, you're going to rely so heavily on your practice and your preparation when you're in that pressure moment. And I have to tell you guys, that's the key to successful outcomes right there. Because in that moment of fight or flight, when you're super anxious because you're having a high pressure, high stakes skill eval, even if it's whether it's clinical or didactic, or even if it's your board exams and you've already finished school, those high stakes assessments are really important. And the best way to manage them, the best way to have the outcome that you're looking for is preparedness and practice. Because in that high pressure moment, you're going to rely on those things. You're going to rely on your practice. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out myself, but I've had a couple of really high pressure, high stakes moments recently. And rather than kind of going into panic mode or maybe making the wrong decision, I quickly realized upon reflection that in that pressure moment, I relied on all the things that I know because I was prepared, because I had practiced, and because I knew my stuff. In that high pressure moment, I was able to perform to the best of my ability. And to me, that is the definition of success from hard work. So do not underestimate that, guys, because when you're doing those assessments, it really shows your faculty where your practice is. If you've been practicing and you can lean on that in that moment of stress, you're going to perform. Even if you don't even remember what you did, you're just going to rely on that practice and that preparation, and you're just going to do your performance because that's what that does in those pressure moments. And that's really one of the secret sauces of life, is that when the pressure comes, your preparedness shines. So don't forget that. That's a Mrs. Lunt little tidbit for you. The other thing that is so hard and challenging in dental hygiene school is connecting the subject matter to the clinical application. So when you have something like anatomy or radiology and instrumentation, and it's all interwoven and you just can't connect the dots, it's real. So I was working with a student and I said, you need to come around the line angle and keep your toe up against the root surface. Remember, there's a mesial concavity on that tooth. And the student was like, oh my gosh, that's right. I learned that in oral anatomy. These are really hard things to do. To take those pieces of things that you learn just for a test question and actually utilize it in the clinical setting in a real situation with your instrumentation or with your patient, connecting the dots of what you see on the radiograph to the periodontal status of your patient. Things like that are really hard. Figuring out the age of the patient based on the radiographs, figuring out the dental materials that are used based on looking at radiographs when you're in the clinical setting and you're trying to chart your patient. These are all things that can be really challenging in connecting the subject matter from each of your subjects and bringing them all together into one cohesive assessment for your patient. So understand and know that that is hard, and it's going to take practice for you to kind of put all the pieces together and have things click. So just be kind to yourself as you're doing that. And I got to tell you, please read the feedback that your faculty give you. The faculty take the time to provide you with feedback, and you do your self-assessments, asking for feedback. Don't be afraid of the faculty. I can tell you 100% for certain that your faculty are there to see you be successful. They want to provide you with feedback. They care about your progress. They care about your success. Take a look at what they can tell you, and maybe different faculty are giving you feedback that has a connection piece to it. So you can figure out, where is my struggle? And what is it that each one of these faculty are telling me that has a common denominator in it, so that I can grow from that instead of kind of externally looking at that feedback as something that the faculty are saying, look internally and say, this is something that I need to support myself with and improve on. And speaking of self-support, let's not forget self-care. Burnout is real, guys. And as students, you guys often forget to prioritize your sleep. Sleep is the thing that you give up, but I will never give up my sleep. I have a solid 8 to 9 hours every single night, no matter what's going on in my life, because that is the key. That is like one of the gems of successful living. Prioritize your sleep, prioritize your nutrition. In and amongst all of the chaos of dental hygiene school, those are two things that are a must, because your body is fueled by your nutrition and your body is fueled by your sleep. And if you have an empty tank, no matter how ready you are when that pressure comes, you need to get yourself set up for success. And that is not the way to do it. You have to have your sleep. You have to be eating right. So just don't neglect your self-care, because if you're not your best, then you can't be your best, right? This is almost like, this is your mom talking right now. So this is what I would say to my kids. This is what I'm going to say to my dental hygiene student kids. So, and then the other thing I will tell you guys, things get stressful with your cohort. These are your network of people, right? Sometimes things get stressful and you might end up with some conflict with your classmates or even with your faculty. Just learn to navigate those professional relationships with one another, because when you get out in the field, the same thing can happen. You are in this really unique profession where it's a tight-knit group, and it's usually a family-oriented team when you go work out in private practice or even in public health. So I want you to learn to navigate those professional relationships with your cohort of students and with the faculty that you're working with, because these are your peers. These are going to be your colleagues. This is your support network when you get out there. So be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and really lead yourself with the way to seek to understand, right? Listen to hear people instead of listening to talk. Listen to hear them, seek to understand, remain curious when people are talking, because that reduces the lack of understanding and it reduces misunderstandings that can sometimes happen when everyone's sleep deprived, not eating well, and under a lot of stress. And then the other piece of emotional that I'll talk about is imposter syndrome. And I have an entire episode on imposter syndrome, and I can't tell you how many times I hear a student say that they're not good enough, or they're not smart enough, or they can't do something. It's very common, especially in the clinical setting. But I tell you that if you internalize that fear and it reduces your confidence and your performance, it's just going to make you suffer. It's like self-sabotage. So you just got to let it go, right? Just say, I can do hard things. I'm here. I got into this program. I can get through this program. I have what it takes. Whatever you have to do to get that imposter syndrome off the table as a non-negotiable, the sooner you do that, the better. Because there are going to be a lot of hard things to go from where you are right now to where you need to be. So you just got to let that imposter syndrome go. I think one of the hardest things I've done in my professional life was taking that leap of faith when I graduated as a dental hygiene student and then going out into the field and thinking that I could actually do it. I was just like, oh my gosh, they're going to figure it out that I don't know what's going on. I mean, honestly, you will have so many different not good enough feelings go into your head because you forget that there's a gap between where you are and where you need to be. And for some reason, we're not kind to ourselves about that gap. You just have to let it go and say, guess what? I'm entry level. I'm going to do what it takes, and I'm only going to get better. Just like own it, okay? Just own entry level for a minute and just let yourself experience what it's like to struggle a little. And that's okay. And I love it when a student says, well, I've only been doing this for a semester, or I'm still just at the learning stages, because I would rather see a student say that and really show kindness to their learning process, instead of saying, why am I not doing it like you? Well, I've been doing it a long time, right? So there is a gap there, and that is okay. It does not mean that you're not good enough. It means you're right where you're supposed to be and you're learning. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep going. Okay. I want you to also think about, so that is all for now. I want you guys to know that as your semester is unfolding, you're just going to keep getting better. You're learning new skills, you're growing, you're improving, you're thriving, you're working your way towards your goals. So put your shoulders back, put your chin up, and be proud to be a dental hygiene student. I will see you all next week. I'll talk to you soon. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so that whenever a new episode launches, you will get a notification so that you can take little steps towards learning all that you need to know for dental hygiene school. Take care, everyone.